Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Compliance Shots by LEXCOMPLY. At LEXCOMPLY, we continue to serve corporates on compliance matters in India as well as overseas. Today, we have Ms. Taraj Agarwal joining us to discuss the recently issued FDI relaxations. Taraj Agarwal is a seasoned legal professional and company secretary with nearly 2 decades of experience in corporate in-house roles and law firm practice. She is the founding partner of P3T Legal, a full-service law firm. Her experience across diverse sectors will really give us a good view today, and we are very glad to have this opportunity to discuss this important topic with her.
Thank you
Welcome,
so
Taraj.
much. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you. Very
Yes,
excited to have you here.
same here. I'm very excited to let my viewers know what is the impact and what is the significant changes that has been introduced in the Press Note 3, which we call as for the countries sharing the land border with India.
Mhm. So,
So
can you just,
yes.
so for the viewers, so basically there are some FDI relaxations that have been introduced by the government recently to open doors for investors from our neighboring countries, notably China. Taraj, can you give us a brief about what exactly has changed from before?
So if I talk about historically, any country which was sharing a land border with India, which the government has referred to as LBC in the PN3, that is the land border countries, any kind of investment was through a government approval route. Okay, and even the minor sort of a minor stake or investment was supposed to be through the government approval. Um, though this was the strategy was that very clear guidelines by the government while it wanted to have a foreign investment, but at the same time it must take care and safeguard the national security as well as the strategic interest. However, the change that was introduced at that time, this led to a lot of procedural delays, and it even discouraged the investors or the stakeholders to invest in India. So now the Union Cabinet has come up with this significant change in the Press Note 3. Let us break it down so it would be easier for our viewers to understand what exactly the changes have come up. So the most important change that has come up in this Press Note is introduction of the definition beneficial ownership. So
Hmm.
the note has aligned this definition with Prevention of Money Laundering Act and rules. So in a simpler terms, the beneficial ownership means any ownership by a natural person who is having a controlling stake in the company, or whether directly or indirectly, or we can say who has a significant influence over the management or the policy decisions. So this is one of the major change that has come up, but now it is more important and to for the government and the companies to identify the beneficial ownership, that is their ultimate beneficial or the control of those whosoever is the stakeholder investing into the country. Second most important change that has come up is those LBC countries who are going to invest up to 10% of the investment into the country, into India. They can do so under an automatic route, provided that they do not have the controlling interest. Of course, that remains. And of course, they are supposed to make the necessary disclosures to ensure that they do not fall under, they do not cross that limit of 10% plus. They are covered under the beneficial ownership definition. They do not covered under rather beneficial ownership disclosure. Now, this I believe is going to break the bureaucratic hurdle which the minority stakeholders were facing, or those who are not having any control over the stake. So this 10% route, automatic route for 10 of investment up to 10% is definitely going to attract the investment into India. It's a good move that the government has placed. Now, now, this we are talking from more from the perspective for those who just want to invest into a small portion of, say, up to 10%. Especially, third important change has been introduced for the manufacturing sectors, like those who are into manufacturing of capital goods, electronic components, solar components, and all those strategic manufacturing sectors, provided that, again, the non-controlling interest still remains. And so the approval will be, or the decision for the approval, I would say, would take place within 60 days. Now, this is again an important move because now the delays would be covered up. We are assuming that and we are hoping that. And of course, it is going to encourage the participations of the stakeholders into our country. So these are the major changes that has been introduced in the press note 3, Jyoti. And that's all from my side. I think the press note itself is very clear on what the reason, what was the statement, object, and reason for bringing this change. And it is really a welcome move, and it is definitely going to bring up the transparency and strengthen the national security as well.
Absolutely. I think that was a very, very detailed view of what the changes are. Thank you so much for that. And as you said, it is a very welcome move, and of course, the impact remains to be seen. But at this point, I'm very curious about how it's going to impact our regulatory landscape. In particular, what I'm talking about is the legal and compliance impact in such transactions.
Of course, I think this is what our viewers would be more interested to know, especially those from the compliance and the legal team within the corporate. Um, we really need to have, I mean, there need to be a clear legal obligation on the legal as well as the regulatory team within the organization to actually to trace down or to identify the beneficial ownership of the stakeholders whose investment is predicted into India, or whosoever is investing into their company. So when I say that they need to trace down, it means tracing down even to the tracing the multiple layers of their ownership. And of course, we all understand the term ultimate beneficial owner. So it is very important to identify who is the ultimate beneficial owner. At the same time, if you see the press note, it also talks about the disclosures. So an appropriate disclosure needs to be made to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry as well as to the RBI whenever such investment is being onboarded into the country. That is one side of it. We are talking about identification, we are talking about disclosures, we are also talking about the filings. Another important and for which every company needs to have a robust internal compliance team where the legal and the compliance needs to integrate and conduct an appropriate and a proper due diligence. They need to review, they need to have a clear KYC, because this KYC and identification as well as the review is very important to avoid any kind of future regulatory risk that they might face up. Because my expertise or my thoughts while I read that PN3 says that it is not only about disclosures and filing, it is also about an organization to have a periodic review of the investors or the stakeholders, whosoever is investing into India, so that they can avoid any kind of future risk that might prevail, whether in the form of a penalties, whether in the form of a fines. So that regulatory risk needs to be covered. And even from the legal perspective, I would say, Jyoti, that while we have this investment and we do any kind of agreement, whether it is shareholders agreement or it is a share purchase agreement or it is an investment agreement, and a clear representations coming from the stakeholders needs to be incorporated within the document itself, clearly specifying the ultimate beneficial ownership of these stakeholders into the company. So these are the few factors which I would suggest. So right, I can break it down for the ease: due diligence, disclosures, filings, then identification, maintaining of records. So these are the few factors and safeguards which I would suggest that all the corporates, even the government organizations, can look forward to. And of course, since it's a welcome move by our country, it is going to strengthen the transparency and of course attract the foreign investment into the country.
Great. That was a very, very clear answer. Thank you so much. And so, to me, let me just conclude this by saying, while I also agree with you that it's a great plus to have these, greater capital inflows into the country, especially from companies like countries like China, where they have huge foreign reserves.
Yes,
And of
correct.
course, it also means improved technologies for us. But I think a
Definitely.
sharper compliance vigilance and governance framework would be required by companies. So, professionals like you and me, legal and compliance professionals, need to really work now towards, getting that done and sorted properly. Well, thank you for joining us today, Taraj. It was great discussing this interesting topic with you. And
Thank
to
you,
the viewers,
Jyoti.
for more such conversations on compliance, regulatory shifts, and industry insights, stay connected with us at Compliance Shots by Lex Comply. Thank you.
Thanks, Jyoti.